Okay.
Can you hear this okay, John? Am I good from where I'm sitting? All right, good.
Okay. I think we're good. All right. Welcome everyone to episode 2 of the Owner's Lounge. We are live on location at Micah Croyle's office on Broad Street. I'm here with New York State Senator Joseph Griffo. Senator, welcome. Nice to have you on.
It's a pleasure to be here, Mr. Patel, and the fact that it's your second podcast, I'm honored.
Thank
So
you.
we still got to work on all the bugs, but it looks like John and View Media are doing a great job setting up here, and
Yes.
this is quite an impressive place.
Thank you. I know Micah will appreciate it too. So I'm not sure if you were able to view our first episode.
I was not. We've been in session a lot over the last several weeks because it was the end of the regular session.
Right.
So you have a lot going on between events and legislation that we're dealing with. So unfortunately, I don't get to watch a lot of recreational TV or podcasts, but look forward to in the future seeing what you got, and pleasure to be here today.
Definitely. And for all our viewers as well, we do have shorts and the full episode on our YouTube channel available. So you can view it at any time.
I thought when you said shorts, I came in shorts today, and I would have been like, maybe that's how we do this. I'm more relaxed,
Right?
even though I'm not dressed up today. But it's always good to have that casual environment, sometimes, particularly when you're doing interview shows, I think.
Yeah. And that's why we're live on location. So I feel a little bit more comfortable versus a studio setting.
Especially with the taxidermy stuff going on here. I don't know if you can catch that.
Yes. So I'm not sure. Have you heard of OHOA and EHOA at all?
I have not. When I met you last week, I appreciate your investment in the community, and I think it's an interesting business, particularly for people like me, because we talked about this previously to being on air, that I travel a lot, and I'm in the capital, and I stay in hotels. So it's always opportunity to judge facilities and how they're operated, and I think you got a great idea of, like, behind the scenes. That'd be cool. I mean, probably the closest I came, there used to be a few TV shows, remember, that would focus on the hotel industry and things like that. I'm trying to remember what they were. Well, I think one took place in San Francisco or something, and
I remember the one really well, Hotel Impossible, if you remember it.
that's kinda like Restaurant Impossible and
Right.
Bar Rescue,
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah.
thing. That's kinda cool.
Yes.
But then there was actually a soap opera or something with a hotel there, like the Fairmont Hotel, out of
Yes. That would be nice if they did a TV show like that. That would be
but the
interesting.
reality stuff's kinda cool. I mean, that would make it where you're really seeing what's taking place, even though I think a lot of the reality shows have taken on its own life now, and I'm not sure they're actually real, or people aren't trying to play parts.
Right. So, Senator, AHOA is Asian American Hotel Owners Association, and AHLA is American Hotel Lodging Association. Now, AHOA itself, with Asian American Hotel Associations, I'm not sure if you knew this fact or not. They had an Oxford study done back in 2021, and they found out that AHOA members own more than 60% of the hotels in the United States.
What would you attribute that to?
What I would personally attribute that's the business concept and model that the industry brings, and that what we as Indians and people, with our ethnicity, kinda love that type of business format
Okay.
where we're investing our money, we're working at it ourselves, and we have equity.
'Cause I find that an interesting perspective. I know, and we've talked about this with physician recruitment and retention. We have a lot of doctors here who are very well known and well respected, and that's something that I've talked about when we're developing legislation, almost our version of most favored nation status, because we have to give certain type of visas and things of that nature to recruit, and said that India has a very good reputation. When we bring in, they're extremely qualified, hardworking, and there's an interest there. So we should try to focus on one particular name that we're interacting with, say, if there was that opportunity, so an interest and desire. So when you talk about the hotel industry, kind of is intriguing because I never would have like put that in perspective to say, this is maybe an area where people who are there and growing up start to look at this from a hospitality industry and saying this goes to the points you made that you can do A, B, and C and enjoy it and be successful. So
Yes.
that's interesting.
So it is nice. Both AHOA and AHL do have um, member-based organizations, associations, and we help members is we also like to advocate for our members. And you and I know, being in the field, being politically involved with the state senate, that if we do want change to happen, we have it in the political level for it to trickle down to us business owners. AHOA and AHL are both advocating on the national level right now for Hotel Transparency Act and Credit Card Compensation Act. Now, again, like I said, we're advocating nationally for that. Is that something that we might be able to bring on state level with us here in New York State?
I mean, it's always you look at issues of importance to particular segments of industry. In this case, the hospitality industry is very actively engaged in a lot of ways in both the national capital and the state capital. I am unfamiliar, except what you provided us on some of the national federal legislation, but we did take a look at it. Something like this would start in the Commerce Committee or the Consumer Affairs Committee. Because some of the, for instance, you talk about the Hotel Fees Transparency Act, you talk about the Credit Card Competition Act. While I don't have, and I'm not familiar with the nuances of the federal bills, we've done a couple of things in New York State recently, and I do believe it's something that we would and should be interested in reviewing and speaking with people like yourself as to what the benefits would be. I think what we tend to lose nowadays, in my opinion, when we approach issues, is trying to apply common sense to things. And that's my goal and my objective as I continue to serve. See how we can reintroduce this, and we can look at policy. We have disagreements, we have differences of opinion, different perspectives, but I do believe that we can approach it when you identify something like a subject like this, and to look at what can we do that's reasonable and realistic, and do that with balance. So, for instance, in the state of New York this year, we passed the New York Junk Fee Prevention Act, and requires all mandatory fees, including hotel add-ons, to now be clearly included in any advertising. And I did vote in favor of that. I'm not sure where the industry would have been on that at the time, but I looked at it from a consumer perspective, constituent perspective.
Mhm.
The other is we had a credit card surcharge and intercharge fee bill. And that passed in 2023, and it required businesses to post the total price of an item or service inclusive of the credit card surcharge. And I did vote in favor of that too. So I think subjects you raise are valid, and yeah, I mean, there's always an opportunity to begin that conversation. I think you have groups that come to Albany, like the Bankers Association,
Right.
hospitality industry, the hotel association, that say this is a priority for us, and we would like to discuss the subject, and then as a result of that, produce legislation that may cover that and put into statute something that you believe would be in my opinion, would have to be a balance between the business and the constituent.
So what I've noticed and I've seen in the last few years, especially after COVID, with credit card fees, if you see now, if you go to, I've gone to restaurants, I've gone to hotels, and even shopping, my Golf Pro shop. There's a cash price and there's a credit price. Now, even the businesses themselves are realizing it, and fees are getting outrageous that they're passing the fees now to the consumer.
Yeah, I mean, you look at all these things and you see these changes from a societal perspective too. I know places that wanna be cash free.
Mhm.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I still think you ought to be able to pay in cash if you want. I understand from and you would know this from your industry perspective, how you have to, you know, safeguard the assets. You want to make sure that you set up a system where you avoid any type of fraud or abuse, right? But I think we can again find a reasonable, realistic method and manner
Right.
in which to do that, where we don't exclude something. Like obviously with cash, it may be a little easier for something to go wrong. I don't believe in denying right now, like payments. While I understand it, I still have some issues with that. And there are many big events right now that will not accept cash.
Right.
And I recall like where I was in some of the big stadiums and things of that nature, right? And that becomes problematic because then you're looking at the possibility there could be a fee attached to that, a
Mhm.
service fee, and you say, well, I could avoid that. It's similar to what we're seeing right now, and again, it's that balance that we need to strive to achieve with the electronic world that we're in right now. But there are some individuals who still want to use this, like for instance, filing taxes.
Right.
There are some people who are older who use this method uh, and choose that, but we're trying to make it so difficult for them. Say, well, if you do that, then we'll have to charge you. I mean, that's outrageous
It
to
is.
charge you for filing something that you used to do traditionally
Right.
instead of because you want to. I don't. I think you should allow the choice without penalty. That's my own personal opinion. You're seeing that even with the utilities now.
Yes.
They want to put a smart meter in your. Yeah, but if you want the old traditional hardwire, we'll continue to keep that, but we'll charge you more. That's outrageous, in my opinion.
I agree.
So.
I agree. Insurance is another. We were talking about literacy. Yeah, not getting into insurance quite yet. Next question for you. Senator. So there is a call for tort reform in multiple states due to frivolous lawsuits hurting small businesses. Do you believe such reforms are necessary here in New York? Why or why not?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we need to continually review each and every aspect of our operation and practice. And I think you do that in your business.
Yes.
If you just say the same thing over and over without re-examining and determining what you can do differently and better, then and even as an individual, you have to do that in life, in my opinion, right?
Yes.
So there's a need to do this. The problem is you have many groups now, right? And you see this particularly in the medical profession where you have physicians on one end and trial lawyers on another. And again, we need to strive and keep. I understand both sides taking a certain position and the reason for that position,
Right.
but it's our role and responsibility, at least as government officials, to find that common ground so that we're protecting the patient, the consumer, the constituent. So I think people deserve the right to bring the lawsuit when they're legitimately harmed. But excessive lawsuits can harm small businesses, drive up
Yes.
costs. So that's why we've got to find the right way to get this done. And I think if something troubles me, it's that's where we are in society today. It doesn't have to be either or. We've got to figure this out, and we can. I think we have a lot of bright people that can say, "Look, you all got to find the right." Middle ground here so that we achieve balance. And you see that one of the toughest things to do, and I sit on the higher education committee, and in the higher education committee, we have the Bureau of Licensing and everything. So we have to deal with scope of practice between different physicians. Sometimes you'll see ophthalmologists and optometrists both wanting something that are at
Right.
loggerheads, podiatrists and orthopedics. It's very difficult for me as a non-clinical person. But we have to weigh that and say, what should or could we do that's in the best interest, not only of the physician and the practice, but most importantly, the patient.
Right.
So similarly here as a consumer, we wanna make sure that you're not being hurt, that the person's not being hurt, despite the models and the different, perspectives that will be offered based on the industry or, insurance companies or attorneys.
That's excellent. I agree with you, Senator, and I wish more people had that mentality and that way of thinking too. Um, Moving on, next question, if you don't mind. The Lions Act. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Lions
I am
Act or
not
not.
familiar with it, but I wanna thank my staff. In fact, Alex Carroll is with me today. He's my director of communications, former reporter with, Gannett.
Mhm.
And he says he's reformed now, I think. So he got into government service. He did some homework on that, so I do know that it's the loans in our neighborhood, and it's about loans for small businesses, which I do believe we've worked with the SBA in the
Mhm.
past, and I do not have an objection, particularly when you look at the rising costs. I think we have an affordability issue, particularly in New York State,
Yeah.
That's one of our greatest challenges. If I have to identify 3 challenges in New York, it would be affordability, it would be economic opportunity, and then it would be public safety right now. And, so in this one, to raise it from 5,000,000 to 10,000,000 is reasonable. Again, you gotta look at the budget because 'cause you're talking about trillions of dollars at the federal level.
Right.
In New York alone this year was $250,000,000,000. We over $252,000,000,000. Think about that just for the state. And, so I think this is reasonable, but we have to look at it in context of everything that's happening.
So the Lands Act is more of a federal level,
It is.
statute and,
Yeah.
clause. Is there something we can do incentivize business owners in our state that we can quite possibly have access to funding to help our business?
Well, there are a number of different programs at the state level. Most of it comes through the Empire State Development Corporation. There are restrictions on certain types of industries, uh, like restaurants and things.
Mhm.
And I always believe that, and movie theaters.
Right.
I always believe we should look at everybody somewhat equally. There are obviously different needs, like in retail and hospitality. But so we do have a number of programs. How we distribute those programs, how we organize those, I think can and should be done differently.
Mhm.
But I don't know where we would fit in right now, but we can help you. There's a menu of grants that currently exist to help small business. Many of them go through the Empire State Development Corporation, which is the main economic state development
This
corporation.
way, for us owners in New York State right now would be to contact the Empire State Development.
Well, we can arrange something for you, an association. We can arrange a meeting with you and the economic development officials to make it sit down. You can talk about some of your challenges, some of your needs, and they would be able to best ascertain what you may be eligible for or what you could apply for that
Would that be
presently exists.
on an individual basis or
I would say it would be based on what you've told me to. I would do it from an organizational would be better than individually.
I agree. So we do have, New York State does have, New York State New York State Lodging Association. So
When you said NYSERDA, there's actually an energy
oh, so
resource development authority,
yes,
and they do have grants too, because that's what I'm saying to you, they do, from an, HVAC and things like that, if you're looking at making it so that you're saving on heating and air conditioning, and there are incentives to do this kind of stuff. So that's why I think we would be able to put your group, I would suggest, with the right, quarterback, so to speak, uh, within the economic development agency, who could then direct you to say, you may be under, business and minority-owned business, woman and minority-owned business. You gotta be eligible under a special commerce bill that we have here. You may be eligible under the Regional Economic Development Council. There's a menu of existing programs.
mhm,
In fact, before we came here, we were doing something at Munson, down on Genesee Street as part of the Downtown Revitalization Initiative. The city of Utica got a $10,000,000 grant, to redevelop. So, yes, we can put you in, with the right people and then determine what is available and accessible.
definitely. Thank you so much. Um, so I will definitely be in contact with your office and that Economic Development Office, and we'll get that information. We'll get the ball rolling on that to help at least New York State, um, owners with accessing some capital for their properties. Um, now we did talk about this a little bit, but I just wanted to mention it again. AHOA does offer back of the house tours. So to politicians and representatives to see how our industry truly functions in-house and also tour the back of the house of the facility for the property. Is that something you would be interested in?
Absolutely. It's always just a matter of, scheduling
Mhm.
because, as you know, there are a lot of demands on our time. But I think it's a great idea, and I think it would actually be kind of interesting. Many times, you see this, like, they call 'em business hours, where they have a little reception or something. So, maybe it would be if I had to give you an idea, is that you offer it, do a little something after where everybody comes together and can interact, I think find that interesting. based again on their time demands, probably
Right.
'cause everybody's moving in a lot of different directions. Yeah, I think it's a great thing, great idea. And in fact, I think maybe after the podcast here, Tal, you can start your own version of the reality show on the hotel industry.
That
You
would
know,
be
in your
interesting,
corner, right?
a
We'll do it
hotel reality
right
show?
on YouTube,
That
right?
would be interesting. Um, Thank you. I will definitely let you know. I'll, be in contact with the hotel, and we'll set up a back of the house tour, someplace local here
Yeah,
in
that'd be
Utica
great.
would be nice. We
Yeah,
have several nice hotels here, full service hotels.
absolutely. That'd be great in Utica, yes.
Um, Next question, Senator. So there's an increasing interest in bipartisan collaboration around tourism and small business recovery. Are there any current incentives in Albany aimed to boost hospitality economics?
Well, I mean, as I said previously, there are a lot of different categories of options and opportunities to determine what you may qualify for. We'll put you with the right people to make that determination. We have a lot of economic programs right now, grant programs. I would reorganize these, as I indicated to you. But currently, what we would do is have your organization again sit down, and then we can determine what, if anything, is available. And if there is nothing, to maybe then say, well, maybe there should be something because we're doing it in these segments, but not in this segment.
Right.
As I indicated to you earlier, a lot of times the entertainment segment, they don't do anything. But on the other hand, we gave a tax credit to the movie industry. So I think we've done a number of things that would allow us to say, hey, let's look at this.
Mhm.
And if we don't have something that fits, maybe we should consider developing something that fits to give them the same option and opportunity as we're giving others.
Thank you.
But again,
Um,
I'm not the governor, remember that. So
yes,
unless you
yes.
want to start a campaign here, I'm not sure. So
No, 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 no. I wanna
stay out of politics, right?
yes,
All
for
right,
now.
that's
This
good.
is the better side. I can
Yeah,
ask the tougher questions from this side of the
that's
board.
great. You're smart.
Okay. Hello, Jerry. How are you doing?
Good. How are you, Senator? Hello, Senator.
Okay. We'll get on with your story.
Yeah,
Um,
he's gonna put me in.
so my next question, Senator, this is a big topic that this is one of our industry's biggest focuses as well. And I know with AHOA this year, the new board of directors have decided to start a new ad hoc committee in reference to this particular issue that our industry is facing, which is insurance costs. Now, increasing insurance costs are crippling our businesses. Can the state either regulate or incentivize affordable commercial insurance policy? Or right now, I will give you an example, Senator, of myself. So I was looking to get property insurance on my hotel for my property. And my property market value is worth probably maybe $2.5 million. When I was getting the property insurance, the insurance quote for my property, the minimum that they would insure my property for is $5 million coverage. I understand total replacement cost. That's what they're taking into consideration and everything. So now my hotel, let's just say, was to have a crippling total loss to the hotel. I have a $5 million policy by what they state. I'm not getting $5 million if I lose the hotel completely. It's not coming back. They're taking depreciation out of that, and the premiums are increasing. They're categorizing what I feel anyway that insurance companies are doing is categorizing a blanket coverage because of where the insurance industry is. So in order to make up the premiums, we need to increase premiums for everyone everywhere. It doesn't matter if your property is legit, perfectly fine, whatnot. We're increasing premiums across the board. What do you see about that? What do you feel about that? Is there something statewide that we can do?
Well, I mean, it's very difficult because you see this in various segments of industry right now that have similar situations and concerns. And you have the insurance industry itself, right?
Mhm.
You have the banking industry. So we do have a Department of Financial Services. It was a consolidation of all these silos that existed before, and they have oversight and responsibility to monitor the banking industry, the insurance industry, things of that nature. So I think it's a conversation we can have with them. But again, I think it's a challenging conversation because we have similar things with uh, in medicine with doctors and malpractice insurance
Right.
and with homeowners insurance and things of that nature. So I don't know where the feds are on this, but from a state perspective, I think the best thing we could do is have a conversation with some of the concerns to the regulator, who is the Department of Financial Services, and then beyond that, again, this is something where the industries have to come together and kind of sort it out, in my opinion. I'm not a big regulation guy. I think New York State overregulates right now. We overtax, we overregulate. So I don't like to get in immediately and say, yeah, we should get in there and start regulating. But there is, and there will be times where you do have a role and responsibility to do that. So I think here initially, what I would say, without having a lot of background on this, is to identify the fact that there is an agency that has that oversight if there's something that is really awry, and they can look at it, called the Department of Financial Services. And then beyond that, they have a conversation potentially with in the legislature, if you want, with the chairs of the committee on insurance, or maybe a joint kind of conversation through your association statewide now,
Right.
or a larger association, not just the AAHOA, but the whole industry,
Right.
to say that, look, we'd like to sit down with the chairs of the small business community or the economic development committee and the insurance committee and say, you guys need to here's what we do, here's our financial impact, here's our burden. And sometimes through that conversation, there's an opportunity to say, all right, we got to look at this and see what we can do. Again, remember, the key word for me is balance, right? To find that balance.
So that would be great. If there is an insurance committee, you said that New York State does have an insurance.
Yeah, no,
committee?
the legislature, the New York State has a Department of Financial Services.
Okay.
And they have oversight and regulatory authority over industries like banking and insurance.
Okay.
And then they can set agency regulations, things of that nature. So we could start with, having you speak to someone in the agency to say, here's our concerns, and then they can maybe give you a better perspective, saying, well, this may be an issue where it's negotiable, not a regulatory. But I also said that your organization, who lobbies on your behalf and advocates for issues of importance to you in the industry, when they come, like the hospitality industry. In fact, I would suggest you form a coalition, like the tourism people, the hotel industry, all the hospitality people come together, and you guys establish your top 3 priorities maybe. Right. And if insurance is one of them, then you come in and you speak not only to individual members of the legislature, but also to the respective committees of oversight. In this case, it would be the insurance. There is a committee on insurance. In the Senate. It's chaired by Senator Bailey, who is from New York City. And I'm not sure who the assembly chairperson is, but but that's what we can, but I would do it that way. Actually, I don't know if you're involved in this, but we in Albany every year throughout the regular session, every week, there's a variety of groups that come up to talk about what's important to their industry. And I don't know if we've ever had a hotel group that have come in. Now, you've had the hospitality industry, tourism officials, but like I said, maybe you all have to come together collectively and say, hey, let's call it a lobby day where we go in and you meet with individual members as well as the chairs of the respective committees that you would have an interest in.
Now, I know AHOA does do that nationally. We do have national lobby days where we do go to the Capitol and meet our representatives and tackle that. But you're absolutely right. We should also do that on a state level.
Sure.
100%.
And I would even go one step further. I would do it collectively, not just alone, because sometimes there's a greater voice in numbers, right? If you have the hotel association along with the
AHLA, along with the state lodging association, all 3 of us come together.
Restaurants potentially, or potentially also we were talking about tourism, because that's all interconnected.
Yes, it is. Yes. All right. That was great. Thank you so much. Now, just moving on real quick. Jerry, are you able to join us?
So I'll patch Jerry in. It might be a challenge to hear him.
Okay.
Come out of the speaker, but we will try it.
Is this a hearing test, John?
He can hear us. Jerry, can
Is
you
that-
hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear Jerry. Is that Jerry
we can hear
Stucci
you. I'm
there?
not sure. Yeah.
Hey,
Mr.
good morning,
Stucci,
Senator.
how are
How
ya?
are you?
How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I've been having a very interesting time listening to your conversation, and I think it's very interesting, and I know it aligns with your Liberate New York agenda
Thank you.
for small business. I was doing some reading on that, and I really like the tone of it, Senator, because it really does. You really do want to look out for the small business people, and I know that Sandip is very interested in advancing the hotel industry here, and sometimes the barriers do become significant, and I know that your legislation or your agenda is definitely in line with his.
Well, thank you, Jerry, and I appreciate Jerry's always a guy that has good ideas and cares about the community. I've enjoyed always communicating with Jerry and trying to work with him on various projects. And in fact, I'm available for your podcast. Let me know when, because I'd be happy to come and do that too.
Well, we are doing our drop in tomorrow, and we have a slot because John Pizak can't come tomorrow. So
Tomorrow's a tough day for
I'm
me, Jerry.
kidding, Senator.
But
It's
you
short
check in
notice.
with our office, and I'd be happy to accommodate you. You know, so
We will do that for sure.
Well, thank you, Jerry. Senator, real quick again, I have another question that I'd like to see get a response from.
sure.
Franchise regulations. Now, most of us hotel owners are franchisees, and we have a franchisor that is the brand that we are becoming having an agreement with, a franchisee agreement. Now, franchise regulations have become a hot topic and a hot button issue nationally. What's your stance on introducing franchise fairness legislation here?
I really got to look into that because I'm very unfamiliar with that. So I understand what you're saying, but it's like right now I'm going to need a introductory course to figure this all out. Again, I understand about fairness, but I'm not going to comment on something that I'm very unfamiliar with right now. I get what you're saying, and I'm open to listening and to examining and ultimately exploring what options may present itself there. But I just am not, and I don't even know if the state really would have a role or if this is federal, because you're talking about interstate probably situations, because many of these chains, you're talking about like Hilton or Marriott, that kind of stuff, right? And so I find it intriguing, but I'm just not familiar with a lot of this stuff. So
it can be done statewide as well as nationally. We want to push this nationally, but I know we're getting more traction.
So I'll give you my perspective there, Mr. Patel. In a lot of these cases, I don't think New York should be the first. New York likes to do that. They like to look at California and say, we're going to do it too. I think we need to examine these things and determine what's truly in the best interest of New Yorkers. And sometimes just trying to get there and do something which could be done and should be done at a federal level. I have not been overly excited about doing that, because now you're individualizing things and certain things. And I don't even know if this, when you talk about franchising, you're talking about hotels. Can it be just specific to hotels, or what about restaurants?
No,
and
so
it's everybody.
Franchise.
It's just franchise in general.
Franchise.
So yeah, so I got to get a real course into this before I can really engage. And but I would tell you this, that I sometimes resist just having New York being out there on their own when it's something that really should have an impact federally. Because sometimes when we have done that, you've put New York at a disadvantage.
Right. But with that, I will say New York would not be the first on this.
Okay.
New Jersey actually was the first. They actually introduced a bill to the New Jersey State Assembly in 2022, May of 2022. It passed their assembly in May of 23, but due to some legislative changes in the assembly there, I guess New York state law is that if the assembly changes, it has to go back to the assembly.
Oh, you're talking about New Jersey or New York now?
New Jersey.
Yeah, but that's not us. So
I know.
Yeah,
So, but
that's a neighbor.
So this bill, though, the fair
That's our
franchise,
stepbrother
right.
over there. So it's kind of like, but the
So they've already introduced and they set it up
right.
statewide for fair franchising.
But have they passed and the governor signed into law? Now let's do an
Not
introductory
quite
course
yet.
in
It hasn't been
government.
signed into law by the
Right.
government, right?
In introductory course in government for some of the listeners. When you introduce a bill, it gets introduced to both houses. Not always. Sometimes it's only one house. But in order for it to ever become a law, it has to be introduced and passed in both houses. Now, I don't know the New Jersey setup if it's a General Assembly and Senate. In New York, it is the General Assembly, 150 members. The New York State Senate, 63 members. A law has to pass both houses and then sent to the governor for consideration. The governor can sign it, becomes a law. The governor can veto it. The governor vetoes it. You need a 2/3 vote of the legislature to override the veto, which is very difficult to do. So a lot of times bills will be introduced, but they may be one house bills going nowhere, or they may be passed in both houses and the
Right.
governor vetoes it. So I'd have to and because one state does it, it doesn't, mean a lot. It just sets a precedent, but it doesn't mean that every state's going to do it. Again, my personal opinion on this is when it's something that has jurisdiction, a national implication, I think we should focus on the federal action so there's uniformity as opposed to it being like in this state it's this way, in that state it's this way. It just tends to confuse people.
I agree with you that this is a national issue, and I do believe it does need to be advocated nationally because, again, like I said, it is a national issue, not
Sure,
just a
right.
statewide issue. But I'd like to see something if we started off statewide, or maybe what you're saying, take it nationally. Best way to do
Yeah,
it.
that would be my opinion right now.
Right.
And like I said, I've got to really get up to speed on this
Mhm.
because I don't know about it,
Well, those are some questions we had for
All
you,
right,
Mr.
excellent.
Senator.
I'm available. We're around now, so if you want to do this again later in the summer or the fall, I'll be happy once you really get a few of these under your belt.
Yes.
I'm glad I was one of the early ones. I look forward to getting on the Jerry's podcast in the near future. Jerry, you can work with Alex on that. He'll be happy to set something up based on time. And Jerry, I don't know where Jerry does his because this is pretty interesting. So hardest thing here, Jerry, is to get here because it's on the penthouse and you got to come up all the stairs. So it's a good exercise.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right, viewers, we'll be taking a quick commercial break, and we'll be back to answer live Q&A, and we'll also be with Jerry and discuss a few more AHOA AHL topics. I also want to go over AHOA's board meeting that they had in May, discuss that a little bit. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after this 5-minute commercial. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm about to go back on. I'm about to go back on. Where are you?
All right. Hey, Jerry, are you with us now?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Jerry.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you liked our little conversation we had with New York State Senator Joe Griffo. I thought it was very insightful, some of the things that he had to mention, some of the things that we needed to bring to attention. And I think we do need to take New York State Lodging Association, contact the assembly in Albany, and meet with that committee to talk to them about insurance and things like that and get something set up. I thought we
Sandy,
had a great conversation with him. What do you think, Jerry?
I have a lot of experience with that. When I was working with Boys and Girls Clubs of America, I was the head of the Government Relations Committee. So I'm very familiar with the LOB and the lobbying process. And it does help to get attention. It's a long day, but it is worth it because the individual legislators get to really hear your agenda from the horse's mouth. And that makes a difference when they go into chambers because they know that they're actually dealing with voters. And by seeing you and being able to have dialogue, you're able to get in depth at a level that you can't get when you have them in mass. So seeing, your individual, and what you do is you line it up so everybody sees their individual legislator, their individual senator, and you go into their office and you get 5 to 10 minutes to really regale them on your needs. It's a very useful process. It's part of the democratic process that we ought to all be very proud of, and I would be absolutely stoked to help put that together for AHOA and for the hotel lobbying group because I do think that the senator's right. Strengthen numbers. Let's bring on the tourism people. Let's bring on the restaurant people, and then go in as groups because that's a powerful statement.
Yes, it is. Okay. So it is good that we do go in there as a group. So our viewers that are out there and owners need to know that, listen, when our local New York State Hotel Association is going to Albany or AHOA or AHL are going to the Capitol and lobbying to participate in these events because, like you said, like the senator said, the more people we have coming there, the more people that we have talking to, the more people that are describing these issues to us, the more that they get a feel for it, that it's really impacting the industry and they can maybe make some changes to it. So attendance is big. So I encourage us owners, if we want that change to happen, we ourselves have to go and lobby for it.
100%.
So the next time New York State Hotel Association, AHOA, or AHL are going to a capital or going to any legislative format, try to attend those meetings. It's always good to show your numbers at those events.
100%. And I would say this much. Messaging is as important as showing up, right? So you have to have the right message. Like the senator said, pick 3 issues. I don't care what you pick, but pick 3 issues and everybody resounds with those issues. Because what happens is if you go in with 20 issues, they get diluted. You never get any action. You got to figure out what is meaningful to you and what you have to have immediately. Though, and then you share those in the group before you go, and you make sure that everybody's on message. That elevator speech has to be there for every single person who goes before a lobbyist, before a legislator, because it makes sure that the message gets through. Otherwise, you send too many disparate messages, and there's no movement. There can only be movement when there's unification.
Yes. So, Jerry, that was great conversation we had with Senator and whatnot. I want to move on to a little bit now and discuss and talk about AHOA and AHL a little bit.
Mhm.
So AHOA is like I said, it's an Asian American Hotel Owners Association. We have over 20,000 members. 60% of the hotels in the U.S. are owned by our members. That is an incredible number for a percentage in one industry to have one group own. That's is speeches. It leaves me speechless, pretty much.
Well,
To
it's an
have those type
enormous
of numbers
number.
in one industry.
It's an enormous number, and it's an enormous sector in that industry, right? So
Mhm.
you would think, along with the theme here, that there is enough voices. There are enough voices where a unified voice would be very concentrated, very loud, and reverberate. And I think the strength in numbers that you have needs to be motivated to do exactly what you're suggesting, which is come together and advance our agenda. How is it
Yes.
going to happen? And someone needs to lead. And I think, Sandeep, I think you have the vision. You're the type of person who can get people on board. And I think that, with some technical expertise and some advice from us government type people, we can put together quite a strong agenda for AHOA. And I think that the members would benefit substantially from that. And I actually, if I could for a second, going back to the senator's conversation regarding Empire State Development, well, we've talked about that's tax credits, that's the consolidated funding application, that's energy grants, that's energy credits. But even in the hospitality business, there's specific grants for workforce development. Okay, and I know that one of your big topics is kind of like internships and people being able to learn on the job, making connections with high schools and colleges, and getting apprentices to come in and to work in the hospitality industry to see if it's something they really want to do and to develop great future employees, right? So Department of Labor is huge on that. We need a certified apprenticeship program, and we can get one. We just need to put it together. And that requires sitting down with all of the different members that are at least their representatives, and finding out what an ideal job description would be to bring somebody in under, and then go to the Department of Labor and say, okay, these are the basket of skills that we're teaching. Okay, let us recruit these people and give us a certificate of apprenticeship training, and then allow us to go to journeyman and to the other levels that give these people a leg up on the hospitality business, because there's a future in it. I mean, it's not going away. People are always going to travel, and hotels are going to be more and more central, not less central, to the way people live. So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. So again, like you were saying, you can definitely make changes with numbers and one mindset. And I feel with our current officer board that we have with AHOA, with Miraj Patel being the immediate past chair, with KP Kalmush Patel being our chairman, with Rahul Patel being our vice chair, Pino Patel being our treasurer, and Vimal Patel being our secretary. I truly feel that this officer board of AHOA is good, and we can make some changes happen for both the industry and AHOA for the positive. What we need to do is we need to support our officers and our group, because I will say our vice chair's proposal, Rahul's proposal of data collection and integrating data. Me as a mathematician will tell you 100%, in order for me to come up with a solution and provide a solution, I need data. I need information. I need numbers. And in order for AHOA to do the same similar thing, in order for AHOA to be more spot on with their points and arguments that they are making, we need to have a data of information provided by our owners accurate. so we can go to these negotiations with numbers, pinpoint numbers, and show them what our association provides them. We
Well,
can't do that without data, though.
right. What you're saying is taking a strategic approach that's data driven. And that can only happen if everybody's engaged and if somebody's leading that process. And I would say this much. If you're looking at it that way, you're looking at it like a strategic plan. You need a needs assessment, okay, to get the data. So perhaps we can craft a survey, 50 questions.
Well, we could.
Well,
AHOA has done its things. What
Yeah.
I'm asking, what we need to do, Rahoba has done a really good job on trying to figure out and what information that we need and what data we need. What we need to do, though, and this is where I'm trying to help out a little bit, is get the word out to our members. Members of AHOA, please log on to your My AHOA website, your account, and update your personal profile information to be accurate. That information alone will help tremendously.
It's critical.
That's what I'm trying to do. Get the acknowledgement, get the member engagement needed. And that's one of the things that the AHOA officers talked about at their first board meeting that they had in Chicago in May. They laid out the vision for AHOA for the year, and their goal was to be member-centric this year, all about the members. And I absolutely love that idea. I love the fact that they opened up the Zoom call to their board meetings to the members. I couldn't applaud the board of officers more for doing such a thing. That is member-centric. Now, there are other things that the board has mentioned. There was one other item. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I mean, check it. You can look at the minutes of the boards on there. There was an item that came for election, and it didn't pass. And when it didn't pass, I was scratching my head a little bit because there was two parts to this COGD that they were trying to get passed. So the first part was to have it effective immediately instead of usually it's 6 months or 3 months before it gets processed. So they changed that to it being effective immediately. And there were 19 yeas and 12 nays for that vote. It passed. Now, the COGD number 332, its actual version was that if there is a vacant board seat, that board seat should be filled by the members electing for who they want to represent them as their board member. Instead, right now it says the current board will select a board member to fill that vacant seat. That did not pass. It did not go through. So the members, if there's a vacant seat on the board, the members aren't allowed to vote for who they want there. The board will put someone there for 1 year term, and then the following year there will be an election, and then the members can choose who they want because they will be elected for that position. I don't understand how that is not, that's member centric. It's not member centric. That's not bringing it back to the members. So I'm not sure how this board did not pass this. But I will tell you again, like I said, the officers of this board are really good, and I think we can make positive things happen. They need our support, and we need to provide them with engagement. One of the other topics that was also mentioned was member engagement. And an idea that KP, our chair, presented to our board members was that our regional directors of our areas at least twice a week should be reaching out to their members in their areas to ask them questions, find out what's going on, if there's any issues. Now, each regional director also has ambassadors underneath him, usually between 12 to 15 ambassadors. So they can also contact members in the region besides just the regional director, because, take New York, for instance. New York is in the Northeast region, and we have over 600 members. It's very hard for one regional director to contact everybody every week. But that's why you have these 15 ambassadors where you split it up and they contact 30. One contacts another 30. And so you're only limiting yourself to maybe 30 phone calls a week. But that's how you get member engagement, is you have to actually call the members. You have to personally contact and communicate with the members in order to get member engagement. Is that correct or not?
Absolutely. If you don't reach out, communication is the key to everything, right? So if you're not being proactive as an ambassador and you're not being proactive as a director, then you're not going to hear back, because people have lives, right? So stuff happens when your members are putting out fires all over the place. They're not going to be the ones that think, oh, I have to call in and voice my opinion. No. It's not going to happen, because it's always going to take precedent what they have to do in their immediate schedule. So you have to, as a leader, from a leadership perspective, take the initiative to say, hey, let's put this conference call on the schedule, every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks or something. Give me 10 minutes. Okay. Give me 10 minutes and I'll give you undivided attention for 10 minutes. And you can spew and tell me what you need to tell me. This is communication. And nowadays, with recording of phone calls and all the stuff that we have, the WAV files and everything, next thing you know, you turn it into a transcript. You put that together, and it's really easy to amalgamate that data and find out what people are feeling.
Yes. So like I said, I do like our current board's initiative to be member-centric and having this member engagement. But like I said, our regional directors and our ambassadors for every region also need to continue that by being the people that are there right now, elected, and the people that were put there by the elected person to represent AHOA as ambassadors should be reaching out to our members weekly, at least. Someone should be calling our members weekly, getting their view, getting concerns, getting issues brought out there. And that's going to bring me to my next point of topic conversation. During the board meeting, they were discussing what the top industry challenges were, and they identified them. So as a board, they felt that this is top industry challenges nationwide. So the first one was insurance. Second one is membership engagement. Third one was state association engagement, state and local advocacy, frivolous lawsuits, and OTA strategy. That was their top 6. Now, out of the top 6, they're insurance, membership engagement, state association, state and local advocacy, and even frivolous lawsuits. We kind of discussed a little bit today on our podcast with the senator. Now, I also want to mention the board's top goals for this term that they identified this year. So number 1 for them was increase member engagement. Number 2, improve insurance options and affordability. Number 3, enhance advocacy and legislative influence. Number 4, promote unity and board. Improve insurance options and affordability. Insurance is a big topic, and I do like the fact that they did start an insurance ad hoc committee again, and they're working on it to get affordable insurance policy in-house with AHOA right now. So we'll see how that goes moving forward. Hopefully AHOA can bring something to the board that can offer our members a solution for insurance if we're not able to get it with our local providers that we have.
Well, the thing is, on the insurance, ultimately, everybody's got to be on the same page. You got to, first of all, you got to do that. And I think with your packet of legislation and that you want, a lot of times it's important to bring on sample legislation that you need to help them with. You see, because they're not going to originate a bill the way you want it unless you give them the support that you need, right? That they need. So part of this process is you and your board members and the consultants sitting down and coming up, what would this bill look like? What do you want in this bill? We'll even write the bill for you. Okay. And we'll bring it to you and you guys can debate this and then you can tweak it and do what you need. But if you start that way, at least they start on your conversation
Right.
and you're not starting on their conversation. And that is a very important thing, because what happens when it gets into committees, they start adding their stuff and pulling stuff out and doing whatever. So if you start with your core, the chances of your core remaining are much greater than if you try to put it in afterwards.
Yes. So, Jerry, I think we had a very good day today, a very good episode today. One last thing, though, I just wanted to say before we end this podcast. So I listed the number of things that is the top goals for AHOA board this term, which is excellent. I personally would like to just put out there right now what I feel as a member of AHOA, being a member of AHOA since 2017, where I truly think what AHOA should be for me as a member. And I call it the 4 pillars of AHOA. Pillar number 1, advocacy. Pillar number 2, fair franchising. Pillar number 3, resources. And pillar number 4, education. That, I feel, should be the only thing that AHOA should be concentrating on. Advocacy, fair franchising, resources, and education. What do you think about that, Jerry? And then
I like that because I like the fact that you put advocacy first, because advocacy and would put all of those 3 underneath it. It's the main pillar. It's the cross beam that holds everything up, and it allows you to have an effective dialogue with those that are empowered to help you make your case.
Yeah.
So without question, I think those are 4 good pillars, and let's do what we got to do to advocate for it.
Yes. Well, thank you, Jerry. I want to let everyone of our viewers know that we will be having episode 3, and we have the date for it already right now. It will be July 30th. Episode 3, Wednesday, 12 noon, July 30th. We will have Mayor Mike Galimi on with us as a guest star. I would also like to get a few board members of AHOA on with us if we can that Wednesday. If we aren't able to, that's fine. But at least we will have Mike Galimi, our local Utica mayor, with us definitely on July 30th. So everyone stay tuned for that. Remember, we will be posting shorts and clips. You could always access these on our YouTube channel, Owners Lounge Podcast. We're also on Instagram and Facebook. Check it out. Give us a subscribe and a like. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate all the comments and questions. Let them keep coming. We will keep doing this for you. Have a great day.
Take care.